Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well, and welcome to beautiful Beaconsfield here in South Buckinghamshire here in the UK. One of the, in fact, the most expensive place to live in the country outside of central London, would you believe? There are more £1,000,000 houses plus in Beaconsfield than any other district in the country. There you go, a little fact for you. Anyway, that's by the by, because today I'm out on the Honda NC750X once again. I've been riding this bike for the last 10 days. It's been my latest long-term loan. I've ridden it pretty much every day actually, and got to know the bike as well as I can. So in this video I'm going to give you all the lessons I've learned. So if you're interested in this machine, stick around, stay tuned, this video's for you. Alrighty, so here she is then, the big old NC750X DCT version. Says so here, little thing so we can't forget. A lovely looking bike, I think, and I've really enjoyed riding this over the last 10 days where I've really tried to get under the skin of the bike. So in this video, as I say, I'm going to bring you all the lessons I've learnt, not just the good stuff, but the not so good stuff too. No bike is perfect. I found one or two little niggles on this bike that I'm going to bring to you. So yeah, I've ridden it in all sorts of conditions, on all sorts of roads, on country lanes, on motorways. I've ridden it at night, I've ridden it in the rain, and basically, as I say, I'm going to bring you all those lessons. So if you're interested in the NC750X DCT, this video very much for you. Right, let's crack on. So welcome folks to the throbbing heart of High Wycombe here in South Buckinghamshire, where I'm going to test what the NC750X is like in town and in the urban environment. And the first thing I'd say about the NC in town is that it has quite a good road presence. It's physically quite a big bike, so when you are sat in a traffic queue like that, people can see you, you're sat upright, you're nice and conspicuous. I like that. Another thing that makes the bike great as an urban machine is the fact that it does feel nice and light, even though it's not a particularly light machine at 224 kilograms. Because the weight is all held low, you're able to nip round traffic nice and easily. And that makes it great for town use. And then of course the other thing that makes it good for town use is this DCT gearbox. The fact that if you are in traffic and you have to keep stopping and starting, you're not forever on and off the clutch, because there is no clutch, of course, so not on and off the gears. So it's very relaxing to ride in town. So as a town machine, I would say there are a few bikes that do it better actually. Nice and light to throw around, great in traffic queues. You can be seen on it. Yeah, thumbs up for the NC750X as a urban commuter. Well, not all this YouTube bike reviewing malarkey is glamorous. Don't let it be said that I don't suffer for my art for you. What's the NC750X like in the rain then? Well, it's a pretty scuddy, wet old day today, as you can see. It's a good chance to try out the Honda in the rain, and to be honest, it's got a lot going for it in terms of bad weather. First off, electronics have got you. It's got 4 riding modes on this bike. It's got a user definable one, sort of a standard riding mode, a rain mode and a sport mode, not necessarily in that order. I've got it in rain mode at the moment, and I can tell I've got it in rain mode because I've got this blue light showing. They change colour depending on what mode you've got it in, so it's always obvious to know, as well as it says rain down there on the LCD, look. So that's the first thing that's got you. Next up, tyres wise, this bike's fitted OEM with Metzeler Torrance Next tyres that seem pretty good. I've only been riding for 20 minutes or so in the rain on the bike so far, but I haven't had any moments. They feel pretty good to me. I always feel a bit worried about roundabouts, looking out for diesel, stuff like that on the roundabout, because it can be a bit slippy, but yeah, they seem alright. The other thing is when the weather is inclement like this, the bike itself, as you may be able to see if you look at the indicators on the front here, these LED lights, they're on all the time as running lights, so they only flash obviously when you indicate. So you've got a bit of good conspicuity when the weather's a little bit like this as well. And then the other thing that makes it good for riding in the rain is this bodywork and fairing, which has got quite a lot of, so you're relatively protected from that. Now in terms of the screen, I am getting a bit of airflow onto the very top of my helmet. I'm wearing a peaked helmet at the moment, my Array Tour X4, and I can feel some wind blast. It's not turbulent though, and most of the rain is keeping off of my visor. I've got a bit, of course, and no doubt you've got a bit on the camera as well. I hope you can see a bit of what's going on. But generally speaking, I'm quite protected from the rain when I'm on faster roads like this as well. So yeah, overall I'd give the NC750X a thumbs up for riding in the rain. Alright, let's do the lugging about test then. This is the bit where I go to my favourite station car park here at Great Bissington, stick the bike into a parking spot, see what it's like for turning circle and what it's like for moving around. It's designed to simulate what's it like moving the bike around in your garage. Just stick it over here for a change. Other side of the car park to normal. Right, alrighty, sticker in neutral. There we go. Right, first thing to say, oh, I've got the sun in my eyes. Let's show you from the other side so you're not blinded. So yeah, there she is, lovely looking bike, and it does have this big old grab handle here, so that makes life nice and easy. Alright, so I'm in the middle of this parking space. I'm going to do full lock round here, see how many it takes to get around, and also see what she feels like getting her off the stand. So off the stand, nice and easy actually, thanks to that low centre of gravity. Right, full lock now as we come out of the space. Round we go, and it looks like actually it's a relatively wide turning circle, wider than I thought. That is basically 2 standard car parking spaces. So we started in the middle of that one, and we've ended up on the outer edge of that one. So not a terrible turning circle, but a little bit wider than I would have expected. But thanks to that low centre of gravity, nice and easy to get off the side stand, nice and easy to move around. It's going to be an easy bike to live with, this one. Alright, to practical matters regarding the NC750X then. Some of the things that people often ask me about living with the bike, the sorts of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily pick up if you just take the bike for a 1 hour test ride, or you don't actually live with the bike for a little while. So a few little items. So first thing is, people sometimes ask, what's it like to pump the tyres up? Does it have those right angle valves on it? Well, I'm pleased to report, yes it does. Here we go, look on the back, you can see in there, got one of the right angle valves there, and I've parked it in that annoying way so you can't get the valve, but actually take it from me, you might be able to see through there, look through that gap. There's another right angle valve in there. So actually, if you park the bike in a reasonable spot, pumping the tyres, no issue. Alright, another practical matter, what about lubing the chain on the bike? Well, first thing to point out is it doesn't come with a centre stand, which is a little bit disappointing. Why don't all bikes come with centre stands of this type? I mean, this is a practical machine, you think it would do, but there you go, it doesn't. Now I have to reveal to you the side of the bike that I haven't cleaned. If you look at the chain, here we go, it's well hidden behind this guard, so oiling it, you're going to have to roll it around or put it on paddock stands or whatever, or an ABBA stand, or roll it around your driveway and oil it the old-fashioned way. So yeah, going to be a bit of a pain in the backside to oil the chain. Alright, next, regarding things practical, how do you check the oil? Has it got a sight glass or a dipstick? Well, on here, as you can see, if I can undo it, we have an old school dipstick. Next up, what's the horn like on the bike? Well, as ever, difficult to pick up just from a lapel mic, but let's turn her on, give her a blast, at least you'll you'll hear the tone of the horn. It's like this. Oh, shrill, but very effective. Next, in practical matters, seating position on the NC750X. What's that like? Well, here's a little shot of me getting on the bike. It's a very comfortable place to be. Some say that the seat is a little bit hard. I don't find it too bad on this bike, I have to say. It's okay. But in terms of the actual seating position itself, it's absolutely fine. You're sitting nice and upright, nice and comfy. A little bit of a bend in your legs, not hideously sporty or anything like that, but I find it pretty comfortable. I'm 5'8". I can get my feet pretty much flat on the floor, as you can see. Yeah, people often ask what's my leg length. Well, I have no idea, but I wear 32-inch leg trousers, if that helps. So yeah, seating position on this, very, very comfortable. Something else that comes up in these practical matters sections is what is under the seat. Well, the NC750X is a little bit different with regards to the seat, because what's under the seat is the fuel tank. So what it does have, though, is this brilliant storage feature. So if I open this up, I'll show you. Here we go, down here you've got this massive storage feature, which I have found really, really useful during the time that I've had the bike. Now, according to Honda, you can fit a full face helmet in there. Now, I have to say, I've got quite a few helmets, here they all are, and I've tried fitting mine in. Here's my sort of standard showy helmet, if I can do it one-handed without dropping it, and no matter what I do, I cannot find a way to fit that in. Oh, hang on. No, it's not. I don't think it's going to close, is it? Let's just pop that there. No, it's not going to close. I've tried all sorts of helmets in here. Certainly if you've got any protrusions on them, you know, like a comm system or something, then there's no way it's going to go in. I've tried every possible way imaginable. Let's about that. No, just ain't going to go. So now I have a sort of a medium-sized head, and I guess the shells on my helmets are large, but none of them will go into that storage thing. That notwithstanding, it's an excellent feature. And just for completeness, for the what is under the seat, of course, if you flick the key here the other way, you can release the back seat, and that's where you put the fuel on it. So yeah, that's the what's under the seat on the NC750.
This bike really is super frugal to run, so one of the questions that comes up often is what is the fuel economy? Well, according to the trip computer on the bike since I've been riding it, this one has been doing 63.4 miles per gallon, and I've not been sparing the horses, as it were. If you ride it frugally, I've heard people that can get 80 miles per gallon out of these. That is just excellent. And the OEM tyres on here are Metzeler Torrance Next, at least fitted on this bike. I've had no issues with these tyres whatsoever. Very confidence inspiring, whether it's wet or dry, cold or warm.
Alright, before we get into riding the bike at night, I thought I'd show you what the lights are like during the day. Here we go, this is with the bike running as normal. So this is the dip beam, or daylight running light if you like. Looks kind of cool. As you'll notice, we've got the indicators on all the time, as a lot of Hondas do these days. They act as daytime running lights, or indeed nighttime as well. They're on all the time anyway, and obviously the one flashes when you indicate. So that's what it looks like during the day, and then if we put it onto full beam, which we do via this switch here, basically we get the little mouth light go on as well, and then to flash the lights, unusually on these it says pass there. You flash by pressing the one at the bottom there. Don't know if you can see it. There we go, and it does that little bit there. Alright, cool. Alright, magic and movies and all that. Let's ride it at night. Alright, darkness then. Riding the bike at night. How do these lights fare? Well, actually I have to say, not that great. As ever, the GoPro camera won't show you what the true likeness is like here. It's definitely better than you can see on the screen. I can see where I'm going, but the light throw on dip isn't that great. I can't see too much ahead of me. If I put them onto full beam, it's not helped by the fact that the light switches aren't actually lit up. They aren't on many bikes, but if I can find where the full beam switch is, it's down here somewhere. There we go, full beam. Full beam, much better. A wider throw and a longer throw. So that's dip, that's full. I'll leave it on whoops, full beam for now. Oops, if I can find the indicator. It's the old Honda issue of having the horn and the indicator around the wrong way. Again, it being night, I can't find the indicator. There we go, there's the indicator. We got it. And here, hopefully you can see that indicator, look, with the indicators on as running lights, that's how they work. So when you indicate, one flashes, obviously the other one still stays on. Anyway, there we go, so that's full beam. See fine in full beam. In low beam, not so great. And then flash wise, it's that. Let's leave her in full though for now. In full beam I can see absolutely fine, but on low beam they're not the best lights I've ever come across, I have to say. There's no lit switch gear either. The switch is relatively simple, but as you saw there, I'm not familiar with the bike of course at night. I did struggle to find some of the switch gear. If you're only riding this bike, you'll get used to it. It's not particularly complicated. It just took me a bit of faffing about. And the screen, the LCD screen, as you can see, doesn't have like an inverse mode for night. It's still black on a white screen, but it's not particularly bright, so it's not a problem. So if you've got to ride at night, you can do. It's better on full beam. Good luck to you. I'd say it's a bit of a thumb sort of in the middle as far as riding the NC750X at night. How about taking the NC750X touring then? Well, I think it would be a great bike for that, for a number of reasons. Number one, you've got pretty good wind protection on the bike, the screen and the big fairing and everything, so when you're actually travelling to your destination, it's nice and comfy, not only with the weather protection but also the seating position as well, and the seat itself is nice and comfortable. So for long rides it's absolutely fine. And then the other great thing that makes it good for touring is just its practicalness. So things like the storage that you've got in where the fuel tank normally would be, you can get that touring pack for this bike, so you can get top box and panniers I think for it as well, or certainly aftermarket, as well as the official Honda one, so you can carry plenty of stuff. And it's pretty frugal in terms of fuel economy. So it wouldn't cost you very much. That's why it's flashing me, because of the horse. So it wouldn't cost you very much to go where you want to go. So yeah, as far as touring is concerned, I think it's a thumbs up for the NC750X. Okay, here we are on the M40 then, a local motorway, just to see what the bike's like on faster roads. From a wind protection point of view, this screen does a reasonable job, but I am feeling a surprising amount of air actually on my chest. It's not turbulent, which is the main thing, so it's a smooth airflow, but there's more, I suppose the airflow starts just below the chin of my helmet, and then funnily enough not so much around midpoint, around where my head is, and then above the helmet it starts to hit again. It's weird, but it's I've not experienced that before, where you get it on your chest. Maybe it's licking around the edge of this screen, hitting my chest, but my face is in still air. Very odd, but it's not unpleasant, I have to say. It's alright. And in terms of the bike's poke, I inadvertently then, when I wasn't concentrating on my speed, went up to naughty speeds. Look, I'm cruising along here easily at above 70 miles an hour. I better slow down again. So it's absolutely no lack of poke on the bike as well. It goes along at 70 on the motorway, no problems at all. And if you need to overtake, yep, she kicks down. And there is plenty more there. I better slow down again before I get myself into any sort of trouble. So yeah, if you've got to do stints on the motorway on the bike, no problems on the NC750. People tell me it's underpowered, it's a slow bike. Well, that's absolutely rubbish. It goes absolutely fine at the top legal speeds you can do in the UK. Another thumbs up for the NC750X.
Right, at the start of the video, I promised you that I'd bring you the pros and cons of the bike. So let's go through the negatives first, get those out of the way. There's only a couple of things that I've spotted, but these are just little things that would annoy me if I was the owner of this bike. First up, no outside air temperature on the LCD screen on here, which is a little bit odd. I like to know, whether there's a chance of ice on the roads. I mean, I know you can tell how cold it is by how cold you feel, but it would just be nice to have an outside air temperature gauge on it. I couldn't find one on here. Next up, while we're on the subject of the LCD screen, it just looks a little bit dated now against some of the competition. It is a straightforward plain LCD. It's got everything you need to see on there. It's got a proper fuel gauge and everything else that you need. Easy to read, I have no problems with it. It just looks a little bit dated now compared to some of the modern colour TFTs. Next up, I would like to see heated grips as standard on here. No heated grips on this one. Now I know, of course, this bike's sold all over the world. Not everywhere is as cold as Blighty and needs heated grips, so maybe that's the reason why they're not on there. But certainly for me, heated grips would be a must on this bike. You can get aftermarket ones, of course, which don't cost that much, but it would be nice to see those on the bike. I've written here, a little bit lacking in oomph. At the end of the day, this bike is not a sporty machine. It's a practical all-rounder that'll just, do you years of good service. It's not particularly fast. It holds its own well on the motorway. There's plenty of go, as you saw on my fast roads bit of the video. So no problem with its top speed. But when you want to sort of overtake it, winding the throttle fully on, it steps down with the DCT and off it goes, but it does sort of run out of oomph a bit compared to other bikes that I know and love. So just bear that in mind. It's not a particularly fast bike. It's not a slug either, but anyway, I wrote that on the negatives list. What else have we got here? Lights not great at night. Again, hopefully you would have seen that in the night clip. They're not the best lights that I've ever used, it has to be said. And then the only other thing that I've noted here, and I may have just been doing this wrong, but I've said you can't change the riding modes on the go. You have to stop and change the riding modes, and then off you go again. The good news is it does remember the last mode you had it in, so it doesn't just reset to standard when you stop the bike. But I may be doing it wrong. I haven't read the manual more for me, but it seems like you can't change the riding modes on the fly, so just a little bit of a niggle. All right, that's it for the negatives. Let's get on to the positive stuff. All right, so let's get on with the positives then. No one likes a whinger. A few things here that I of note. I mean, let it be said, overall, I love this bike, but some of the things that stood out for me was, number one, the DCT. I'm a big fan of DCT gearboxes. It just makes riding so much easier, particularly if you're riding in town or the urban environment. You don't have to, you're not forever on and off the clutch. It's lovely. It works great. Next up, weather protection on this bike. Pretty good overall. Lots of fairings on here, so as you're cruising along in bad weather or whatever, you are kept pretty well out of the weather. The only thing I would say is the screen's a bit odd, in that it does a pretty good job of keeping buffet off you. There's no buffet around my head, but I did find that the airflow kind of went round the screen a little bit and kind of hit me on the chest, which was a little bit odd, but overall weather protection very good. Next up, build quality and ruggedness. That just got a feel about this bike. It being a Honda, they're known, aren't they, for their sort of quality and longevity. I think this one would never let you down. It's a great bike in that respect. That tank storage, I mean, it's a simple thing, but the fact that you can carry stuff in there, particularly for me as a YouTuber, I'm always on a bike carrying cameras and stuff, just chucking them in there has been absolutely brilliant. It meant I haven't had to wear a rucksack or take a top box or anything like that. The storage on here is brilliant. Next up, feels light when riding. It's not a particularly light bike. I think it's 224 kilograms out of memory, but it feels light when you're riding it because the centre of gravity is so slow. With this engine properly canted forward as it is, and again the fuel tank being under the seat, everything, all the weight is kept nice and low. So that headline figure quite high, but actually it feels nice and light when you're riding it, which if you're a new rider or maybe shorter or maybe not so confident, makes for a very easy riding experience. I love that about it. And then last but not least, the value of this bike. I mean, to purchase it, it's around about £8 grand. It's a little bit bit less if you get the non-DCT one, a bit more if you get the DCT one. So an excellent price, and then actual running costs as well. As I mentioned, things like the miles per gallon, it's not going to cost you too much to insure, I wouldn't think. An excellent value bike as well. So yeah, they're the positives that I noted.
So there we are, folks. That's my in-depth look at the Honda NC750X for 2022. A brilliant do-it-all motorcycle. As I said at the start of the video, when people talk about do-it-all bikes, they often mean it in a disparaging way, or meaning somehow that they're lesser bikes, not so good, because by definition they're good at everything but not great at any one thing. Well, as do-it-all bikes go, I have to say the NC750X is very hard to beat. Great price to buy, very frugal to run, comfortable, super practical, easy to ride with its low centre of gravity. There is very little not to like about this bike, and if you're in the market for a do-it-all machine at a great price, then I thoroughly recommend you check out the NC750X. It may well be the bike for you. Alright, hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. That way I can see you in the next video. I don't just do bike reviews here on the Missenden Flyer, but I do bits and pieces in the garage about how to look after your bike. I do trips and tours at home and abroad. I do monthly bike news. Basically, I do everything and everything to do with motorcycles here on the channel. It'd be great to have you along, so do hit that subscribe button. Alright, that's it for this time. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Missenden Flyer. Cheerio.
All right, so as I say, I've been riding this bike for that. Let's do it again. Okay, so here she is then, the big old NC750 DCT. Oh, okay, here she is then, the big old NC750 DCX.